Why is it so hard for us to forgive? Well, hello again, and I am excited to talk about forgiveness today. It is a tough subject for me to talk about because this is actually something that I'm currently working through. And so I thought no better time than to share my current understanding about it. And I feel like everyone has this lesson to learn how to forgive. And if we were to really sit back and ask ourselves an honest question, what are we holding on to still, right now? What is inside of us that we are holding on to? So when it comes to forgiveness, some of the key thoughts that have been coming to me as I grow and evolve in this practice of forgiving, if you will, is why do we choose to hold on to things? And when we hold on to those things, is what we're holding on to even true? Recently, my wife and I had several discussions, and she just starts laughing, and it kind of hurt my feelings a little bit in the moment. And I asked her what she was laughing about, and she's like, "That's not what happened, Kyle." And so it was a really good eye-opener for me that even, I like to try to say that I'm a person who keeps all the facts straight and I remember everything exactly as it happened. Even I suffer from a false memory, false narrative, if you will, of what exactly happened. And this is a phenomenon that occurs when we try to keep a story going in our head, and we become more think about it like somebody who starts drinking alcohol or starts doing a drug and they have more of an addictive personality. What happens? They do one or two and then it turns into three or four, that sort of a thing, and it grows and evolves and oftentimes it's because they love the feeling they get, but they have to do more of the substance to get that feeling. It's because our bodies develop I guess you could say, a tolerance. And so it's just coming to me now that we hold on to a story and then we start telling false narratives about the story because it's in that same kind of fashion that our body. So let's go back to what a lot of spiritual modalities teach. Bruce Lipton talks about this, other thinkers, scientists, spiritual leaders talk about when we think a thought, it creates a feeling and emotion, and then that creates chemicals in our body. And the body literally becomes addicted to whatever chemical that was. So we keep thinking the thought. So with that little bit of understanding, it's not a far reach to say, oh, maybe my body was becoming used to that chemical, and so now I have to tell a little bit different story to get the same reaction. So that's a really interesting concept, and let's take a moment and talk about why forgiveness is so important. If you are holding on to a story, it is using your energy that's available to keep that story alive. And those chemicals are low vibrational chemicals in your body that is creating a down effect on your overall psyche, on your overall health. So by letting go of that story that you're holding on to because you're unwilling to forgive, when you forgive and let go, it frees up energy now that you could be using to apply to something else. So the beauty of that is once you understand that concept, you'll start to understand, as I am right now, you ask the question, do I like how I feel? And the answer is no, I really don't. And then once you make that decision, you say, well, why am I continuing to think those thoughts? Why am I continuing to hold on to those resentments, those hatreds, those angers towards other people? And it really gets back to the greatest lesson I feel right now that I'm being taught is learning how to love with pure divine love, which would forgive everything. Because you can't have love in your presence while still holding on to these other things, these negative sentiments that you may have of any kind. And I think that lesson is for everyone, that we have to have experiences in this life that make us feel certain feelings or emotions. And those can be a wide variety of experiences. But we're required, if you will, the lesson is to find love, universal love in that moment. So I want to kind of talk about this and how it's presenting to me. The universal love is, I feel best understood, at least to me, this is how I've been getting the information. It's when you are, take a moment, close your eyes, and just imagine that you are in, I guess you could say, whatever your belief is, you're in heaven, you're across the veil, you're in your higher soul, and you're looking down. So just close your eyes for a minute, however it is to you. Close your eyes and just float up. Just imagine you're floating up, higher and higher. And the higher you go, the more connected you are to source, to divine energy. And now look down on that same event and ask yourself the question, how do I feel now? You may notice that you feel less of those emotions. You may feel that all those emotions are gone. And when you float higher up like that, you start to see everything in your reality from a new perspective, literally and figuratively. And it's this new perspective, you could say, with newfound eyes, with eyes that are looking through your higher soul, your oversoul. And at the oversoul level, you only see love. And from this higher perspective, you gain a consciousness of all parameters around that event. You start to understand why that person did what they did, and you start to see that person who did whatever they did with love. You begin to see that person who really wanted to act out of love, but for whatever reason, they were unable. And this starts to foster a compassion inside of you towards that person. Whatever the case may be. Now, I understand. I myself have had very traumatic things that have happened to me. But I can tell you with my own testimonial that this process works for any event. Some events take more time. Some events are harder lessons for me to learn. When you look at spousal relationships, that's something that I've been thinking a lot about. One event can happen in a spousal relationship or just a romantic relationship of any kind. And if we continue to hold on to that event, it starts to cast a shadow on everything else that other person does. And it starts to create what you would call emotional baggage around it, to use a neurolinguistic programming term. And when we have this shadow, it creates a new form of lens in front of our eyes. And our perception is jaded, to use that word. Our perception is altered when we look at that person. And so a lesson for me right now is what kind of a relationship could I have if I was to just let all of this stuff go? It's an interesting thought. So what I've tried to do this morning is really dive into what it is that makes us want to not forgive. And in a nutshell, what does forgiveness look like? And the next question one may ask is, well, okay, I understand now, but I want to learn how to forgive. How can I do that? The process that we did just a few minutes ago, where I asked you to close your eyes, is kind of an abbreviated version of a neurolinguistic programming technique to remove negative emotions and also limiting beliefs around a specific event. And I would encourage anyone watching, when you find yourself becoming consciously aware of a feeling or negative emotion, or some other kind of, thoughts that you may have around a person or set of circumstances, just try that. Get quiet, breathe with your heart, breathe in and feel the heart filling with energy as much as you can, and then rise up. In your mind's eye, just imagine yourself floating up above this particular thought, event, or circumstance, and keep floating higher up, and keep floating a little further back in your mind's eye, back into the past. You want to imagine that you are before the event, like right before that event happened, and you're floating up above it, and then you keep floating a little bit further back. And then you just ask your unconsciousness at this point, am I at the first event? And if so, do I have your permission to release this? Because we have to remember that the unconscious is working 90+%. Some people say 95%, some people say as much as 99%. But our computing power, what's going on inside of our head, is over 90% unconscious. The unconscious is there to protect, preserve, and keep you running. Not necessarily healthy, because sometimes we're learning right now that there's things in the unconscious mind that are there because of traumas, past circumstances and events, and we create these programs, whether they're right or wrong, they're there, they're running. So our job is to try to clean that out. And this process of rising up and floating back allows you to see this whole circumstance from a different perspective. And then you can ask yourself the question, do I want to look at this differently now? Can I forgive this now? So that's a neurolinguistic programming technique. You may ask the question, what do I need to forgive? I'm not feeling good inside, but I have no idea what I should forgive. And this is something I've been working on myself, is using conscious free writing. What is conscious free writing? In a very brief synopsis, it is getting a piece of paper and a pen or pencil, whatever you prefer to write with, and writing with your own hand, whatever, your left or right, doesn't matter. You write with your own hand on this piece of paper. And for me, what has been so critical is, number one, not judging what I write. I can look at it as I'm writing, and sometimes I laugh and I say, wow, that was kind of dumb, Kyle. That was really in your head all this time. But you do it with an open mind and with an intention. You kind of set an intention, like, I just want to find out whatever's in my head right now. That could be an intention. And you also want to be in a light state of trance. So however you choose to get into trance is good. One of the methods I use is called ancient Hawaiian technique called hakalau. It's where you focus on a point out in front of you, but you allow your peripheral, you kind of hold your hands up, and I can see my fingers waving while I'm staring at a point in front of me. And I can feel my eyes just kind of relaxing, and I can feel myself getting into a light state of trance. And you'll also find that as you start to write and you just allow yourself to be open to whatever information is coming out onto the paper, you'll continue to deepen that level of trance. And you may find, as I found, I started to smile as I was writing. It was relaxing for me. It was relieving for me. So that's free writing. And one of the things that I do is I just write a question. I start by writing a question. If there's something really on my mind that I'm trying to figure out, I write that question with a question mark. And then usually right after I write it, things just start coming to my head. And it's important to just trust the process. Don't question, don't judge, just start writing. And you will find that oftentimes the first things that start to come out are the worries, the fears, the anxieties, just stuff the stuff that was already up in your conscious brain, just kind of churning, clouding the water, so to speak. You're able to get that out. And then after that comes the real good stuff, the stuff that's rising up out of the unconscious mind. So free writing, and if you were to ask the question or set the intention, which is something that I'm going to start doing myself, what is there that I'm holding on to? Ask that question. What am I still holding on to? Question mark. And then start writing. And if you were to do this every day, and every day when you finish the free writing, practice this exercise of trying to see that circumstance in a different light. You know, in your free writing as well, you could, once you finish your free writing on what am I holding on to still, or who am I not choosing to forgive because I don't want to forgive, if you do your free writing on that and stuff starts coming out, then you could ask the question, how can I see this in love? How can I have more compassion around this circumstance? And I believe there is so much therapy just in that free writing, because the exercise is actually allowing for a little bit of the critical faculty, which is the element between the conscious and the unconscious, to start to diminish. And that when that critical faculty diminishes, it allows us to get into the unconscious, which is where all these things are stored. These memories, these thoughts, these feelings, these emotions, that create these programs. A good example is, let's just imagine in a romantic relationship, every day you come home, there's a fight. Well, pretty soon you start to just not even want to come home. It's a very easy, simple example. But that's a program, because you just know that that's what's going to happen. But maybe it wouldn't happen if you didn't come into the house with that sentiment, that feeling, that pretentious nature. So forgiveness is very important. I will speak for myself. It is robbing me of my joy. It is robbing me of the present moment. When we choose to not forgive, we're actually in the past. And we oftentimes use that past to create our future, which is we're still going to hold grudges against that person from the past, and it's going to make us see and behave differently around that person in the future. So in this particular example of not choosing to forgive, we're actually creating a future of hurt, a future of worry, a future of anger, resentment, hatred. So I think it's really important to share as well that when we forgive, who are we forgiving? Some may say, oh, I'm forgiving my ex whatever, or I'm forgiving my perpetrator for this event. And a few years ago, I would say that would be my belief too. But in reality, you're only forgiving yourself. It's a really interesting thing, because the act, whatever happened, you pick the circumstance to imagine in this moment, the only person that's still hurting is you. Because you are harming your body from a physiological standpoint by holding on to whatever it is you're holding on to. You're harming your spiritual growth and evolution, because it's robbing vital energy from your body that could be going to manifestation, creating your wonderful life that you would like to have. And lastly, I would say that it's robbing you of your true love, your true peace, and your true internal harmony, which, in my opinion, is the goal. Wherever we are, whatever we're doing, We should be at true peace and true harmony inside. And I can say now without any doubt, you will never have that. You will never have the true peace, the true harmony, if you are still choosing to hold on to any kind of fears, resentments, anger, hatred towards anything, whether it be, for me in the past, it was towards God because of events that happened. Why could this happen to me? It was towards people in my life. So we will find that true peace and happiness when we can truly come from a place of love and say, I forgive you. And in that moment, it's all internal. The forgiveness is for you. You may think you're forgiving that person, but you're forgiving yourself for whatever reason. I love you all very much, and I hope this message finds you all with more peace and more harmony, and work through the forgiveness process. Set the intention that I am going to forgive today. I challenge every one of you guys watching to try for 1 week. 1 week. When there's many ways that we could do this. One suggestion may be when you first wake up in the morning, ask yourself, who am I going to forgive today? What is my unconscious mind going to bring forward of something in my past that I am still holding on to? And trust whatever comes up. You may laugh. You may think, wow, that was kind of a stupid thing I'm holding on to still, but you are. Trust your unconscious mind. Trust the process. And as we develop more rapport with our unconscious mind, more will come forward. So with that, much love, much peace. Namaste.